Hey, I'm Steve Krenz for Guitar Gathering. Thank you for joining us for this quick lesson on some blues licks that you need to know. There's some, I've given some easy ones and some intermediate ones all the way up to pro level. This is kind of the first installment of these. There's a PDF that goes along with this, and so make sure you have downloaded that. The link for that is in the YouTube description down below. It's all free, and you can get there. I tried to include in the PDF the fingerings for it. It's written out in music notation. You have tab and all that sort of stuff as well. So thought that might be of help to you too. But just to get us started off with, let me just kind of play a little bit for you and see if we can get some of these licks in action here. Hey, there you go. A little bit of kind of a combination of some of the licks that we're going to be talking about. We did this lesson at our Guitar Gathering conference, and I was amazed when I just kind of was just teaching blues licks off the top of my head. And over the next of the couple of days, I noticed Tom Bukovac, great studio guitarist here in Nashville, using some of the same things. Will McFarland, a legendary Musicians Hall of Fame guitarist from the Muscle Shoals rhythm section, used some of these same licks. There's just a certain pocket of licks that are real common on guitar, and so we're just going to talk about a few of those. The first one of them, if you look at your PDF, these aren't in any particular order, so they're not in order of difficulty or anything like that. Just no particular order to them. First one is this little 7th chord hammer-on. So you're going to hear that all the time in blues. Let me turn down my reverb here a little bit. That's a little bit too much reverb. Reverb is kind of like you just don't want too much of it. It gets a little bit too much. So a little bit of it's nice, but too much is too much. Ah, there you go. That's a little bit better. All right. So what is that? Okay. Here's the deal. I'm going to do this in the key of G, like we're doing a G blues, and the progression for a G blues is at the bottom of page 1 there. There's basically 3 chords involved. The 1 chord in the key of G, which would be a G7. The 4 chord in the key of G, which would be a C7. The 5 chord in the key of G, which is going to be a D7. So you're basically dealing with G, C, and D, and we're going to make them all 7ths because that kind of gets a little bit more of a bluesier sound for blues. So if you're unfamiliar with the progression, it's written down there at the bottom of page 1. So this first little lick, though, is this. We're going to put our first finger at the 3rd fret, and we're going to be, what is this based off? This is based off of the high G. So instead of a root on the low string, like we have if we're doing a bar chord, we're going to be basing this off of a root on the high string, the 1st string. We do a 4-string bar on that 3rd fret, just the 4th, the 3rd, the 2nd, and the 1st string. So that's the first move. Okay, and then I'm going to hammer on my 2nd finger on the 3rd string at the 4th fret. So you got the bar, and then I'm going to hammer on to this 3rd string 4th fret, and so you get this little ba-dump sort of thing. So if I just do 2 notes, it would be this. The bar doesn't change. The only thing is the hammer-on is coming on with your 2nd finger. Ba-dum, ba-dum. Now I can add the 4th, the 3rd, and the 2nd string, and I can go all the way down to the 1st string if I want. 2nd string, 3rd string. Okay, and the root that I'm pivoting off of is this high G on the 1st string. So when it's time to go to a C chord, all I do is go up here to the 8th fret on the 1st string. There's a C there, just like there is on the 6th string, and I do my bar and my little hammer on there. And then when it's time to go back to G, I'll do it back down here in G. For the D, I have to go up to the 10th fret, because that's where the D is at. Do the hammer on there, then back to the C at the 8th, and then back down to the G at the 3rd. So it's a great little rhythm figure. You hear it all the time in blues. If ever you're doing any sort of comping in blues, you kind of have that little hammer-on, but-up thing happening. Okay, so let me just see if I can kind of get a little bit of a loop going here, and I'll show you how this works. So just be patient here while I do this loop. 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, no, let me try that again, because I don't want to put that middle chord in there. A 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's my loop. And so if I started playing my little lick on top of this, let me wait till it gets around the cycle. Now to C. Back to G. Doing only downstrokes and making them nice and short. Okay, very standard little riff that you would use on any sort of blues setting. You're just hammering on that 2nd finger. So it takes a little bit of practice to get used to that hammer-on. Do it really slow. Now remember, a hammer-on, I'm not just whacking the string, I'm not just, doing that sort of motion. I'm hitting it and off. Bang! It's more of a punch than it is a tap like a cat would do. Okay, it's not that. It's a punch that I'm going after. So we even did a series on hammer-ons and pull-offs, so you can always go back and look at that series, and if your fingers are a little slow or don't quite have the strength for some of these hammer-ons, you might check that out. Okay, flip over the page and look at page number 2. And here's another variation of that, is I'm going to add one thing to that little move that we just did. So we have the hammer onto this 7th shape. Now, I'm going to add this. With my 3rd finger, I'm going to do a bar, a whole step up, so this would be at the 5th fret, and I'm going to do a bar with my 3rd finger over the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string. Has to be with the 3rd finger though. So I'm doing this, so I have this move, and then I have this 3rd finger bar at the 5th fret on the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string. You see how they go right back and forth with each other. It's kind of a little a pattern that is a good cycle pattern because it's kind of going back and forth between the different things. So if I made up a rhythm for that, I could do something like this. So I'm just, every now and then I'll add this little suspended C chord to this G lick there. Now, the G licks I'm playing short. The suspended chords, you play a little bit longer. It just kind of varies it up. Okay, well, what happens when you get to the C chord? Well, I can do the same trick up here at the C, at the 8th fret, 8th position here. So just for a second, I'm adding this little F, which is kind of functioning like a C suspended. And then I'm back to the G. Now, if I want, when it's time for the D, I can do the same trick up here at D. So if I was playing this as a pattern, it would go a 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. So that particular rhythm, da ch ga ba dum, is not what's important. It's the little back and forth thing. You'll hear a whole bunch of different rhythms. So I could start with the bar and then go to the little hammer-on. I can start with the hammer-on and go to the bar. Or back and forth. So you see how the rhythm is not what's important. Try various variations of your own. You hear it all kinds of different ways, but that's the thing. Now, let's talk about how many strings you're using. For this chord, you're only using the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. Now, if you want, I can just use the 4th and 3rd, but I can't go down to the 1st string on it. It only works with the inner 3 strings. Cool. That's another way to do it. Let me see if I can get a track going. I erased my other one, so let me see if I can do another one. 1, a 2, a track, 2, 3, 4. So that's another way that you can do it. So we have the first is a little hammer on, and then I can add this little suspended chord to it. And that's a great little blues. I defy you to find any, you listen to any blues guitarist and you probably listen to it for 5 minutes, you're going to hear that lick multiple times. It's just an easy lick on guitar, lands well under the fingers, and is so characteristic in blues. So there you go. There's a couple to choose from. That was worth the price of admission right there. Hey, look at page 3. Let's do another simple one. This is a simple one. Okay, we're going to do basically a slide up to the root. So in this case, the root is G. So let's say I was going to use this G up here at the 2nd string, 8th fret. Okay, now I can slide to this by a couple of different ways. For this first one, I'm going to slide to it from a 3rd below it, which is an E. Okay, and it's even better if I can kind of slide up to that E and then hit that. Now here's how slides work. I don't know if we've really talked about this too much, but you slide to the note or with the finger that you want to land on. So I don't go slide with my first because I don't want to end with my first because I got to use my first on the next string. So I want the lick to be. So in order to do that, I have to position myself down, start with that 2nd finger on this D. That way when I slide, I'm where I want to be fingering wise. And this is a simple little lick. I'm going to go to the root of whatever chord I'm on, the G, the C, the D. And I'm going to slide up using the appropriate finger, that 2nd finger on that D to the E. Now how that's notated in your music is you see that little note that's just a little bit smaller than the others. That's called a grace note, and that's kind of indicating the slide, where the slide starts. Now the tab's down there too, so you can see that it starts on the 7th fret, goes up to the 9th, and then hits the 2nd string, 8th fret. So this little lick slides up to the root. So you have, so it'd be 1, 2, 3. Okay, so when you hit the C, well, what can I do? I can go, that's a little low and I can't get my slide right there. So if I raised it up an octave, I can get the same notes, but it's a different fingering pattern here. So the fingering pattern, when we do the higher strings, is 3rd finger is now sliding from the 8th to the 10th. And he's going to the 1st finger, again, is going to be the root, and that's going to be on the C. Again, this is all written in your PDF. So you got 2 different fingering choices. If I do it on the 3rd and 2nd string, I do it with my 2nd and 1st. If I'm doing it with my 2nd and the 1st string, then I'd use my 3rd finger and the 1st finger. So if I did my little lick again, 1, 2, 3. Now on the D, I just scooted up 2 frets from the C. And that's sliding from basically a 3rd beneath the root to the root. Okay, now extra credit here, I can play around with where I want to do that. You've learned it on the 2nd or 3rd string. I could do it to the 2nd and the 1st. What if I lowered it an octave and did it on the 5th and the 4th string? What if I raised it to the 12th fret? That's the same notes as this. But you see how when I do it up here at the 12th fret, it sounds a little beefier. Do you hear the difference? They're all the same notes, just the thickness of the string gives it a little bit of a beefier quality. Now you think, Steve, that's such a simple lick. Why would you even bother putting that in there? You kidding? Have you listened to B.B. King play? A whole lot of what he does is just hanging on that root and sliding up to it by a 3rd. One way to do it. Now, there is another way to slide. So if you flip over your page to page 4, I can slide up and do that same slide again, but I'm going to, this time, instead of being a 3rd beneath the root, I'm going to be a sixth beneath the root. So, and conveniently, it's the same finger. So instead of me sliding from the third string up to the second string, I'm just going to change the string that I'm on with my second finger. So I'm going to do from the fourth string, first finger stays where he's at, on the second string. So now there's a string apart, between these two notes. Okay. So this is the same sort of sliding lick, but it now has a sixth interval of a sixth between them and a string between them. But conveniently, it's the same finger that you've been doing before. This was the first one. That was the second one. So it's just your second finger is the only thing that moves to a different string. Just a different option. Remember how we talked about how thirds and sixths are really cousins of each other? They're actually the same interval, just flipped. So that's why this they're all related because they're similar patterns. Well, what about the C? Well, that combination was third finger there, and here it varies a little bit. I have to go to the second finger to the first. So instead of this, I'm going to go still with a string in between. That's for the D, that's for the C, and I could go down here for the G, or I can play it up here. So if I got my track going, 1, 2, 3. So I'm just adding things around that little third or sixth. Hey, here's another one. Here's a free one. Okay, so you've got that little lick there. I'll give you a hint. You can also do it a whole step beneath that. Over this G7, I could go. Do you see the little trick we did there? I just took the same thing I just learned, and I can still do it a whole step down from there, and it works over that G7. Very common in blues. Hey, does this sound familiar? Or whatever the lick is. From Soul Man, from the Blues Brothers, that's same sort of a lick. It's in sixth, and you're just sliding that around. So you can do it here, and you can also do it a whole step down. Okay? Different ideas. So it's not just this one lick. Don't just learn one lick in one key. Apply it to different keys and different chords and see what you can come up with. What I would do if I wanted to practice these licks, I would go onto YouTube and I would type in G, blues in G backing track. And then you're going to find a bunch of different things there. Just grab one of those and start practicing these licks. I've given you a couple there. We've got that one. And now you have this. Are those two little things. Just two variations of two different licks. Okay, we're going to do more as we get going, but that's the start of this. So download the PDF, get these licks underneath your fingers. We will add to more of them next time. So keep up the great work in your learning, and we will see you guys next time.